Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to a brand new video. Today is Tuesday and I have just waved Avery off in her school bus on her way to school. It's only her second day, so I'm still a little bit like emotional about it, but yesterday couldn't have gone better. Her first day was so positive and I think that really helped with my fears, I suppose. So I thought I would crack on with a little bit of a project while I have the house to myself. Josh is actually busy doing work in the garden this week, so hopefully my mornings will be nice and quiet. Anyway, since we've moved in, I'd say work on the house has definitely kind of slowed down a bit. I'm kind of tackling room by room, but just at a slower, more leisurely pace. And over the last couple of weeks, my focus has been the staircase and kind of our, you couldn't even call it a hallway, but kind of our entryway stairs and upper landing. A lot of what I've done is more of a budget-friendly sort of temporary fix. I couldn't stand looking at it the way it was anymore, and I just wasn't ready to invest a whole lot of money into making it look better. So I'll show you what I've done. So these are the stairs at the moment. I do still intend on doing like a house tour when things are a little bit more put together, and in that video I'll show you some befores, because this is a whole lot different to what it was like before. It does look a million miles better. But basically all I've done, Josh sanded the stairs down for me so that they were a little bit smoother. They are not perfect. And then all I've done is painted them with gloss because that is what we had. I very nearly ran out, so some of the painting isn't perfect, but once again, this was just a really cheap temporary fix. And then the stair treads, I actually bought these in a pack. They're from Amazon, and to be fair, they're actually pretty decent. They're self-adhesive and they cost me about £40. And I think I got 14 for that price. So much cheaper than a carpet or a stair runner, and it just stops, I don't know, the paint from wearing down too quickly underneath, and also it's nicer to walk upstairs with a little bit of carpet up your feet. Also stops the boys from slipping. So it's a temporary fix, but I think it looks pretty good and it will do for now. You guys have already seen all of this, but what my little project is for today is I've actually bought this light here, and the plan is for it to go above these pictures here. Reason being, at night the staircase is quite dark, and this light I found on Amazon is actually really good. For starters, it's actually rechargeable, but what I liked about this one in particular is it actually charges from this bit here, and this is magnetic. So when I need to charge it, I don't need to find a way to get a wire to go all the way up there. I can literally just detach this and then charge it and then pop it back up, and it's easy enough because it's magnetic. It also has a few different light temperatures, so it has cool, warm, and I think it has kind of like daylight as well. And then my favourite part about it, which is why I actually spent a little bit extra for this one in particular, is that it's motion censored. I think you can set, I need to have a good look at the instructions, but I think you can set the time on how long the light stays on. I think it's either like 1, 2 or 5 minutes. But I tested the kind of motion detection on it yesterday and it works really well. So my plan is to have it up there, and then when one of the boys needs to go to the toilet in the night, as they walk past it, or even if, you know, it's not that sensitive, they can kind of just wave their hand up, it'll turn on, and then they've got a light to go downstairs and they're not going to fall down the stairs. And if I leave it on for 5 minutes, that gives them enough time to get back up as well. So that is my plan for today. I need to get this up on the wall. Morning guys, it is Monday. We've just waved Avery off on the bus, so she's gone off to school. So the house is fairly quiet, although this weekend we did actually drive down to Cornwall to pick Marley up, so he is with us this week, which is quite odd because here in Wales our school half terms are slightly different to in England. So Marley's on his half term this week, whereas the boys aren't on theirs until next week. So the boys have had to go off to school and Marley's here with us. So that's a bit weird, but it'd be nice for Marley to get a bit of one-on-one time. The weekend was nice. Like I said, we went down to Cornwall on Saturday and we spent the day with Josh's mum and dad. So it was nice to catch up with them. And yesterday we had a day at home, and I ended up getting a little bit of a spark of inspiration, a bit of a flair for baking. And I think what it was is one of you guys commented on my last video asking what I was going to do with all my free time now, and someone replied to them that I was going to be baking, and for some reason that just made me really want to bake something, but I wanted to bake something a little bit different. So I was scrolling through Jane's Patisserie, because if you've never gone on Jane's Patisserie's blog or read any of her kind of cookbooks, she has the most amazing treats and treat recipes. And I ended up coming up with a little bit of a concoction because I couldn't do anything easy. So I ended up making, I've called them Millionaires Cookie Dough Brownies. And what they were was like a brownie base with cookie dough on top, and then a layer of caramel, and then a layer of chocolate on top. So you can imagine how high in calories they are. But they were really good, very, very sickly, but really, really good. I will insert a picture of what they look like because they looked really, really yummy too. We've still got quite a few left, so I'm sure the boys will go through those over the next few days. But yeah, that is what I did yesterday. This week is fairly quiet. Today we are going to the school at 11:30 because Avery has a paediatrician appointment. This is what I like about the schools here is Avery's kind of paediatrician appointments and a lot of her different appointments. Do you know, I've probably straightened over that part of my hair way too much. A lot of her appointments are at the school, so it's all in one place. And because Avery's already there this morning, it means we don't have to take Avery anywhere else. We can just go to the school. She finishes her session at 11:30 anyway, so we can just grab her from her class and just take her into another room to see her paediatrician. I'm quite eager for this appointment because this would be the first appointment with her paediatrician since Avery had the prolonged seizure back in December. So I did want to discuss that one with her because it was a bit different. Avery's eyes just kind of deviated to one side and we just couldn't get her to focus anywhere else. It was a very strange seizure. So yeah, we've got that on today. Aside from that, it's fairly quiet, although I do have some baking to do this weekend. It is my niece's birthday coming up, and I've been challenged with a cake, one that I've never done before. It's I can't remember what the style is called. Lambeth cake, that's it. It's a Lambeth cake, so one of the cakes that look quite vintagey and they're kind of decorated with all different kinds of piping techniques. So I've never done one of those before, so I'm excited to give it a go. But I've also bought a couple of new bits and bobs to try out, a few new methods for frosting it as well. So I'll be sure to film making that cake so I can kind of show you what I do. Might not be in this video, probably be in the next one. But what I actually intend to do next or this weekend as well is bake Avery's cake layers too, since I'll have the stand mixer and everything out, and freeze them, because one of you guys told me that if you freeze your cake layers they defrost quite nice and moist and less crummy. So I'm gonna try that this time with Avery's cake layers. And Avery's birthday's a little while off yet, well, not that far off, it's a couple of weeks away. And I will definitely film making her birthday cake as well. She's gonna be 4, like, can you believe it? She's gonna be 4. She is growing up way too fast. But then these birthdays then kind of kickstart the kind of birthday season for our family. My parents are both in April, Zach's is in June, mine is in July, my father-in-law's is in July, my mother-in-law's birthday is actually this month. It's on the same day as my niece's. But yeah, lots and lots of birthdays now. So I'll see how many cakes I actually end up getting to make. Obviously a lot of our family is kind of far away, so it's not really realistic for me to make them a birthday cake. But for the family we have here, I'm sure I'll be making cakes for. And obviously our little brood as well. I like being able to make Avery's cake because she can't bombard me with her ideas like the boys do. So I can literally just decide on exactly what I want to do, and I already have an idea of in mind, but like I said, I will film all that in another video. But I'm going to carry on sorting my hair out. I had a shower last night and I washed my hair, so it's a little bit of a mess this morning because I didn't bother doing anything with it last night. And I think what I'm going to do then, since I have a little bit of time on my hands, is I'm going to sit down and do my, I can't say monthly favourites, can I, because it's been well over a month, but what I've read over the last couple of months, and my favourites. I want to share my favourites with you guys because I've read some really good books, and yeah, I'm definitely excited to kind of promote them a little bit more because I think some of them are definitely under talked about and they need to be more talked about because they're really good. So, books. Since the last time I sat down and did this, I've read a lot of them, and there's a fair few in there that I actually want to mention. I'm not obviously going to talk about all the books I've read, but some of them just kind of stood out more than others, and I feel like they really need to be read more. First, I'm going to go through what I read on my Kindle app. So I've got my kind of titles read page up in front of me so I can see what I've read, and I'm just going through them and having a look to see which ones really stood out to me. So the first one is Remember Us This Way by Sheridan Ann. Oh my goodness, this was such a heart-wrenching story. It was, if you like or if you've read and liked A Thousand Boy Kisses, it's very similar. It's kind of got a really sort of similar vibe to that, but I feel like the writing is maybe a little bit better. It's a sad story. I wouldn't say it's got a happy ending, and it definitely made me cry. But that one was definitely a good one. The next ones, I've got to mention these because, oh my goodness, they're not talked about much. I've seen them like pop up maybe once or twice on TikTok, and that's kind of where I got the recommendation from. But they're so underhyped, and it is The Torment Duet by Dylan Page. They're so good. Once again, the duet itself isn't a happy ending, but it does have follow-on stories that follow different characters. I ended up reading one more of them. I didn't read them in order. I read the first two, The Torment Duet, and then I actually read the last one, which was called Echoes, only because it was kind of tied to the characters in the first two books, and I was really invested. Once again, it's not a happy ending, but it hits some really emotional topics. I think all of the books really that I'm gonna kind of talk about, I definitely say check trigger warnings and content warnings just to make sure nothing's gonna make you feel a certain way. All of the books I read tend to have some kind of dark element. I don't really have any triggers, so I read anything and everything. So those are all of the books that I wanted to mention that I don't actually have in paper copy. So let's move on to my bookcase. And I've devoured a few of those since the start of the year. So I've kind of squished into the corner here so that it's easier for me to just grab the books that I want to talk about. But first of all, let's talk about what I'm currently reading. I am so late to the game, I'm fully aware of this, but I had the paperback of The Fourth Wing on my bookshelf for ages. I bought it in the works, it was £5, and I've seen the hype on TikTok, I'm sure everybody has. And I decided to buy it because of that, but I never really like pushed myself to read it because I know it's more kind of the romantasy theme, and I've not really dived into that a little bit too much. I've read the Make Games by Megan and Kayla Rain, and I did enjoy those, and I have also read Forged in Blood by Sadie Kincaid, and the second book, I'm waiting on the third. Apparently it's going to be out soon. I am waiting on the third book of that, and I did enjoy those. So in the end I just thought, you know what, let's switch things up a little bit, let's read a little bit of romantasy. So I decided to read The Fourth Wing, and I can kind of see what the hype's about. I loved it so much that before I even finished reading The Fourth Wing, I ended up purchasing all 3 books in hardback. So safe to say I really enjoyed it. I'm currently over halfway in Iron Flame, and I'm really enjoying this one too. I will say not as much as the Fourth Wing. The Fourth Wing definitely gripped me a little bit more, but I've seen a couple of spoilers on TikTok and I'm a bit gutted about it because I can kind of see how Onyx Storm is going to go now, and it's already making me kind of a bit scared to read it. But I have been really enjoying them, and I guess I like romantasy more than I thought I did. So I'm going to switch it up a little bit and not talk about a book specifically but an author in general. Jennifer Hartman has stolen my heart. She is 100% one of my favourite authors, and I've read a couple, and more than a couple, a few of her books since the start of the year. I read this one, Still Beating, back in 2024 and absolutely loved it. The best way to describe Jennifer Hartman's writing is just emotional. She comes up with some emotional stories, some emotional topics. Some of them are quite dark, like Still Beating in particular. The main characters actually get kidnapped. It's very descriptive, but she writes it in such a way that you feel so many different emotions, and just, I love her writing. There's nothing of hers that I've read so far that I haven't really enjoyed. So like I said, Still Beating I read last year. This year I read June 1st, which is a really sweet story. Once again, there are some more emotional topics in there, but overall it's just a really sweet love story. It's a little bit slow, I will say that, and it is quite a big book, but ultimately it's a really nice story. And then I also read Lotus. This one was so good, and I've never read another book like it. Basically, the male main character actually got kidnapped as a child, and I can't remember exactly how long he was kidnapped for, but it was a really long time. And by the time he escapes, he's obviously very kind of socially illiterate, and the way Jennifer Hartman kind of writes it makes it quite funny to read. Like, it really made me laugh. But then there's, you know, a lot of other emotions going on in this book. There's a lot of trauma, and ultimately it's a love story again. And just the title in itself, I mean, if you've read it you'll know, but just the title in itself is a bit like, oh, once you've kind of read the ending and understand what it means, it's so sweet. But that was a really good book. And then another one, this is another Kindle read actually that I forgot to mention, was Irreversible. This one she actually co-wrote with let me have a look. She co-wrote it with Shelley Sinclair. So that's an author I'd never heard of, but as soon as I saw that Jennifer Hartman had a part in writing it, I had to read it, and it's actually a new release this year. And that one was really good. I'd say that it's very similar to Still Beating, but it's a really good story, and I really enjoyed it. So Jennifer Hartman books in general I would recommend. I do actually still have one that I've not read, and that is The Wrong Heart, so I'm looking forward to reading that. The next books I want to talk about, and didn't actually read these ones this year. I read these quite a long time ago, and since then I've reread them. I've listened to the audiobooks, which are really good, by the way. But it is the Ribbon series by Pepper Winters. So The Boy and His Ribbon, and then The Girl and Her Wren, and The Sun and His Hope. This one you don't really have to read to get to the end of kind of this story, but what I will say is once you finish reading The Boy and His Ribbon, The Girl and Her Wren, you're going to want more. You're not going to want the story to be over, so you're going to go and pick up The Sun and His Hope, and this is going to give you a little bit of closure over these two books. These are so good, and they are not talked about enough. Pepper Winters did such a good job with these books. The writing is really good, the storyline is really good. Once again, check your triggers and content warnings. But again, it's a story that I've not really kind of read anywhere else. Some kind of tropes and stories are sort of repeated a lot, I find, especially in romance books. These ones I feel like were quite unique and just so good. They will make you cry, 100% will make you cry, especially The Girl and Her Wren. That one is a really sad book, and The Sun and His Hope also made me cry as well. So the story follows Wren and Della. So Wren was almost like a captive slave, basically. He was sold to a farm where a lot of other children were sold to, and the farmer and his wife had a little girl called Della. And Wren manages to escape one day without realising that Della was actually in his backpack. So he has a choice. He either runs with Della or he goes back and risks getting himself killed. Naturally, because, you know, there's 3 books out of it, he takes Della and essentially becomes her sort of guardian. 100% illegally. But from that you see them grow up together, and it's such a sweet story. 100% recommend. These are probably my all-time favourite books ever. I also finally continued with my Boys of Tommen journey this year. I read Saving and Redeeming 6 by Chloe Walsh. I enjoyed them, but I don't think they gripped me quite as much as the first two. Maybe because I kind of almost knew sort of where the storyline was at, because it kind of follows the same storyline as the first two books but focusing on different characters. But there's a lot of emotional content in here, and yeah, 100% check your trigger warnings on these, but I did enjoy them. And what have I got next? Taming 7 is next, and then I think Chloe Walsh is actually throwing things off a little bit after that. She's going to be releasing Claiming 10, so we don't get the rest of Gibbs's story until after Claiming 10, but I still haven't read Taming 7 yet, so that will be my next read in the Boys of Tommen series. But I think I need, gosh, my bookshelf's getting too full. I think I need a few palette cleansers in between the Boys of Tommen books, because they are so meaty. They are meaty books. They're really, really big. Yeah, I just need a bit of a palette cleanser in between them. So those are really the only ones I wanted to talk about that I've read so far in 2025. There are books that I've not talked about that definitely kind of hit my top list. I don't know why I've not talked about them. So for example, Credence. Penelope Douglas books in general I've always enjoyed, but Credence is another one of my favourites, and it's a bit of a controversial book. I've noticed people either love it or hate it. It's definitely a bit taboo, but I really enjoyed it. I will say, you know, it takes a little bit of time to get into the good stuff. It is a little bit slow to start, but even the kind of slow start, I still enjoyed the story, and I really enjoyed the book. I got the paperback for Christmas. Josh bought it for me. But yeah, essentially that is kind of all I really wanted to recommend. But if you take any of my recommendations out of all of them, I would say the Ribbon series. 100% the Ribbon series. It's just, I love it so much. It's so good. But yeah, those are my favourite reads so far of 2025. Afternoon all. It is Thursday. Avery's not long come home from school. She's had her feed. She's had a bum change because she had quite a gross nappy, didn't you put in? She's not 100% at the moment. We actually ended up keeping her home from school yesterday because she woke up quite mucusy and struggling with the mucus a little bit, but then she kind of perked up once she'd kind of cleared that initial bit of mucus. But we kept her home anyway, just to make sure it wasn't going to turn into like a nasty viral infection, the kind of ones that spike fevers and give us fits. But she was okay, and this morning we felt okay to send her into school. I mean, after all, the reason why she is going to a specialist school is because we know there are nurses on staff and she's going to be safe should she become unwell quickly. So that was really... Are you telling us all about your day in school? Yeah. So that's actually quite nice, knowing that she's still going to be safe in school, even if she is kind of catching a little bit of a cold. Obviously I did let the teachers know before she went in, but what they did tell me is that this week one of the children has actually been sent home with spots. They said it wasn't confirmed as chicken pox, but yeah, so we're gonna have to keep an eye out for spots. So far she doesn't have any, but Avery hasn't had chicken pox yet, so it's a possibility. But she's had another really nice week at school. Tomorrow's actually an inset day, and then it is half term here in Wales, so she doesn't go back now until a week on Monday. But she has had a really good couple of weeks. She's only actually had the swimming the one time that we took her, and that is because last week the pool was closed for maintenance, and tomorrow, which is her usual swimming day, like I said, they're closed for inset day. But she's been doing really well, and I honestly think school is doing her the world of good. Thank you all so much for all of your lovely comments and just support and well wishes on her starting school. It was so lovely reading all the comments from the last video, and that video actually did really well. It reached out to a lot more people, and it looks like we've actually got a few new viewers from it, which is really nice. Something's just gotten very warm on my lap, and Yep, Avery has just managed to completely pee out of the side of her nappy, all onto my lap. That's just lovely, isn't it, Pudding? This happens all the time, like look. It happens all the time. Because she's getting bigger and because her legs are so tight, she tends to miss the actual nappy sometimes, so we're gonna have to pop a clean nappy on you again, aren't we, Pudding? What the teacher did say at school though is apparently Avery will be eligible for free nappies when she turns 4. From what we'd heard, it was 5. It's not so much the free part that appeals to us, but apparently these nappies kind of fit around the groin area much better. Avery is in size 6+ now, which is kind of the biggest size they sell in the supermarkets for baby nappies. Obviously they do pull-ups, but those we found have just never worked as well. Because Avery is a leaker. Like if you leave her too long in a nappy, she will leak through it. And even if she's got a brand new fresh nappy on, just like she does right now, she still manages to find a way to completely leak out the side. So that's nice. But I'm going to phone the phone number that the teacher gave me when she turns 4 and just see what the deal is with that, because that would be quite helpful. Really? Tell me more. That's nice. Did you have a nice morning in school? Yeah, did you just wee all over my leg? Yeah. Yeah. So this week we had an appointment with Avery's paediatrician, which was in the school, which again was really nice because the appointment was at 11:30, which is the end of Avery's school day. So we were able to kind of go to the appointment, and Avery was brought to us in the room the appointment was at, and then we were able to take her home afterwards. The appointment was really good. We have decided to increase her levetiracetam dose slightly because she is still getting some of these twitches, particularly when she is poorly. So we thought it'd be a good idea to increase that. We discussed increasing the baclofen, but ultimately Josh and I have decided it might not be the best idea because Avery's reflux is still quite bad. And baclofen, it can't be targeted unless you go for the baclofen pump, which is more of a kind of operation. It's a procedure. It's like a spinal drip. It can't be targeted, so all of her muscles will be affected by the baclofen she's having, which means or which includes, should I say, the kind of muscles in her kind of gut and her kind of sphincters, if I said that right, and whatnot. And we don't want to kind of risk worsening her reflux by increasing the baclofen, so we've decided to hold off on that for now. What we are going to be doing soon though is starting trihexafenadil. We have tried trihexafenadil once back when Avery was very small, and we found the first dose didn't do anything, which was to be expected because it was a very low dose. And then when we tried to wean up, she got some nasty side effects. She started to get kind of night sweats, and she was quite kind of awake in the night, which wasn't ideal. So we decided to come away from that med, because at the time we still had a lot of others to try, but now we are kind of down to trihexafenadil again or clonidine. Clonidine is a little bit more problematic in terms of known side effects, so we've decided to try the trihexafenadil again, just to see if, now that Avery is a little bit bigger, she might tolerate it a little bit better. The dose that she's going on first probably won't make much of a difference to her dystonia, because I've not mentioned that yet. This is a medication for her dystonia, because she's only going to be going on to 2 milligrams twice a day. Her max is 15 milligrams twice a day, but we're trying slow, and we will kind of increase really slowly so that she doesn't experience those side effects again. So we're just kind of doing it with caution, but that is the plan. The other thing at this appointment, we actually got to see Avery's MRI scan, which I thought was really interesting, because when she was in ICU and they did an MRI, we never actually got to see it. And I can kind of understand, you know, the reasoning at that time. The priority was not kind of showing us the scans, it was more so kind of keeping her alive. But we never actually ended up getting to see that, and that was the last MRI she'd actually had since the one she had here in Wales not long ago. So we got to see it, and it was really quite cool because she was kind of showing us the brain, and it was almost an image from the top of the brain, and then we were seeing it in almost layers, as though the brain was kind of sliced horizontally. We were seeing it in those layers, and she was showing us kind of where the areas of the damage were. And what she said was Avery's damage is quite extensive, and it does go from almost like the top layer all the way down to the bottom, so it goes all the way through Avery's brain. And I think what I found interesting about seeing the scan, and obviously kind of knowing Avery as she is that Avery's MRI truly does correlate with everything that she has been diagnosed with. So her cerebral palsy is severe, her brain injury is severe, and Avery's disabilities, as we know, are severe. That correlates with the fact that she had quite a lot of damage in her brain. It was quite extensive. Also, she was showing us that the areas of the brain that were damaged, the different areas, she showed us what area correlated to Avery's spasticity, and she also showed us what areas were affecting Avery's dystonia. So I thought that was really interesting, because Avery was actually diagnosed with dystonia from an old MRI scan. She was diagnosed with dystonia at 6 months. But her MRI again was when she was in ICU. She was literally kind of immediately post-injury, so that can kind of sometimes affect what shows on the MRI, because it's all very fresh and new, whereas this one, it's pretty much the doctor said this is kind of how her brain will stay unless she kind of experiences any other damage. Hopefully that won't be the case, but unfortunately Avery does have epilepsy, so it is always a risk. But the fact that Avery was diagnosed with a dystonia without, you know, an accurate MRI goes to show that Avery's symptoms are quite easy to diagnose, I suppose, if that makes sense. Because for quite a long time before Avery was diagnosed with dystonia, one of her consultants was convinced it was just a combination of reflux and just kind of her development. We were pretty convinced it wasn't. We thought it was something different, just because the movements they didn't seem normal to us. I mean, maybe normal's not the right term to use, but we didn't think it was reflux. It seemed to be a little bit more than that. And then lo and behold, her neurologist did diagnose her with dystonia, and now we can kind of confirm that and back it up with the MRI scan. So I thought that was quite interesting. Did it feel a little bit sad to kind of see all this damage in Avery's brain? Definitely yes, but even if there was less damage that kind of showed in the MRI, it's not like it was going to kind of change Avery's outlook or change the way she is now. I think it was more kind of shock seeing it, you know, on the screen. But yeah, that was this week. Anyway, I'm going to close this video off here, because I know with doing my little book report in this video, there's a lot of me talking, which means there's probably a lot of editing to do, and it's going to be a bit of a long video. But I hope you enjoyed Avery starting to get stretchy as well. So that's her telling me that she no longer wants to be on my lap. It won't be long until she won't be able to be on my lap anymore, because she is getting very, very big. Aren't you, Puddin'? No? But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys again in the next video. Bye, guys.